Tuned In, Memoirs of a Piano Man. Behind the scenes with music legends and finding the artist within. Narrated by yours truly, Jim Wilson. Prologue, Meet the Beatle. August 30th, 1985. You must be Jim. He calls me by my name. And just like that, I'm once again the 8-year-old boy who obsessed over this icon's hit songs. The pudgy kid who yearned to enrapture fans with music. The dreamer whose life direction was shaped by the trail this legend blazed. It feels like I have cotton in my mouth. Amazingly, my lips move, words come out. And I'm guessing you must be, I want to say, Paul? He laughs and extends his hand. My anxiety begins to ease. Just. I've met and worked for quite a number of celebrities by now, but this is Paul McCartney, a friggin' Beatle. His music has underscored my whole life, made me cry, laugh, sing at the top of my lungs, worked its way deep into my musical DNA. This is like meeting Mozart, Gandhi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi rolled into one. I mean, here's a guy who's literally changed the world with his music. But I don't have the luxury of succumbing to nervousness. I'm here on a limited mission to install an adapter in Paul McCartney's piano and show him how to work it. Thankfully, I can speak with assuredness about the adapter installation. I even suggest ways I could improve the touch and tone of his Hamburg Steinway B grand piano. Have I overstepped my bounds? But he smiles. Have at it, he says. We agree to meet the following morning and I ask what time. 10-ish anyone? He gives a grin and his iconic raised eyebrow. That a figure from the musical version of Mount Rushmore enjoys a corny dad joke puts me further at ease. Alone in his studio, I hit pause for a second to take in where I am. Hog Hill Mill, an 18th century windmill overlooking the English Channel that Paul's converted into his personal recording studio. Scanning the room, I see the usual trappings. Amps, guitars, microphones, an ISO booth where vocals are recorded, rows of console tape with mixer markings stuck on the wall. But this isn't just any studio. It's the Santa's workshop where one of the most extraordinary musical geniuses of our time transforms the ideas in his head into reality. I sneak a closer look at the dozen drawings taped to the wall. Puzzled by these peculiar pictographs, I squint my eyes and try to decipher the first one. I slowly realize this is Paul's clever way to represent his vision of each song's mix. Each graphic is a roadmap of sorts, using different shapes drawn with felt pens to depict the positioning of each element in the mix. A red circle in the middle represents the vocal. 2 green ovals to either side represent the stereo guitars. A black rectangle at the bottom symbolizes the bass. I take in the row of guitars. 10 instruments in a stand is not unusual. I've seen as many in countless LA studios. But these guitars? One in particular has a distinctive shape that stops me in my tracks. I hold my breath as I ponder the history of Paul's left-handed Hofner bass, one of the most iconic instruments in all of modern music. What would it have been like to stand on stage enthralling screaming fans with this Hofner? At Liverpool's Smoky Cavern Club, on the Ed Sullivan Show, in Shea Stadium, or atop the Apple Building at that legendary rooftop concert. Drawing closer, the bass line to Come Together starts playing in my head, followed by Taxman, then Day Tripper. This instrument has anchored countless Beatle classics. At the Louvre, 15 feet is as close as you can get to the Mona Lisa. Glancing left and right as if there were a docent standing guard, I reach toward the strings and lightly pluck the low E. Man, if this thing could speak. Late into the night, I work to regulate, voice, tune, and install the Forte MIDI mod, the world's first MIDI adapter for acoustic piano. Just a couple of years earlier, I had the good fortune of having a hand in its development. Bartolomeo Cristofori's pianoforte was fashioned from its meek predecessor, the clavichord, 300 years ago. Now, for the first time, it could connect to the new world of electronics via our adapter. Looking back, it's humbling to think that I, a diffident kid from a small West Texas town, would become part of a bridge from 17th century northern Italy to a recording studio on the south coast of England belonging to one of the world's most influential recording artists. For many years, I was about the only guy on the planet you could get the MIDI mod from. I had the honor of serving the royalty of rock: Elton John, Phil Collins, Keith Emerson, Pete Townsend, Lionel Richie, Bruce Springsteen. But Paul McCartney had been my first musical hero. I wanted to deliver above and beyond his expectations. It's the wee hours of the night, and I finally wrap up my work. Paul's driver and personal manager, John Hamill, gives me a lift to the Mermaid Inn in the town of Rye. A sign on the building says, "Rebuilt in 1400 AD. The inn dates back to 900 AD and had been home to pirates after raiding ships at sea. Blackbeard himself might have roamed these halls. Exhausted, I drift off with visions of merciless marauders dancing in my head. Saturday morning. The skies are a canvas of vibrant blue as my taxi winds its way through the picturesque English countryside. But I'm too preoccupied to appreciate the beauty. Prone to panic attacks, I measure my breath. Somehow I'd managed to keep it together yesterday with Paul. But that meeting had been quick and relatively predictable. Today I need to teach him the features of the adapter. I've developed a slick LA veneer I can hide my insecurities behind. But as soon as Paul walks in, I drop my guard. He's in a light, playful mood, not an ounce of pretension. I jump into tutorial mode. I point out that his Grand now has a MIDI output, which I've connected to a synthesizer that he can trigger from the piano. I show him how to turn on the unit, how to transpose. He sits down beside me on the bench and begins to check out the unique blend of his piano doubled by an electric piano sound. He plunks around, plays a few chords. I switch the synth to a string pad sound, and he varies his chord choices, playing longer-held notes. He looks at me and smiles. Lovely. He launches into a chord progression. I've been working on this piece, but I'm stuck for a middle eight section. He plays and sings the verse and chorus he has so far. His voice is competing with the one in my head telling me, this is really happening, so just chill the fuck out and be here. Like a cheeky bastard, I step well beyond my boundaries with a suggestion. Fantastic. For the bridge, what about going from C to B7 to E7 to A minor? He tries the chords on for size and stops. Hey, that's me yesterday change. Oops. Embarrassed that I'd unwittingly proposed that Paul McCartney plagiarize himself, I laugh and quip. All my chords come back to me in shades of mediocrity. He gets the reference. Paul Simon, right? Great lyric. The morning goes on, I ease into the moment. He's Paul McCartney, but also a great dude, a musician, a kindred spirit with a razor-sharp wit and a limitless reserve of amazing stories. Bouncing around from one topic to another, we talk about his friendship with Jimmy Page, my brother's bout with substances, Paul's recent work with David Foster, whose glowing introduction landed me here. We talk about our mutual friend Steve Lukather. No, trust me, Paul, it's Lukather. And how hanging with Luke was like being a high school kid all over again. We chat about his old Northern England rivals, Jerry and the Pacemakers, an aunt in Liverpool whom I must visit one day if you're ever up north, and his early rock influences. Paul starts playing a Beatles song, and I join in on harmony. Looking back, I recall it being Can't Buy Me Love, but if I'm honest, it's all a bit of a surreal blur. 4 hours fly by. When he walks me to the studio door, he smiles and says, "Anytime you're in the UK, give us a bell." As the lush green fields of Sussex fly by the limo, a ray of sun lights my face. I catch my smiling reflection in the window. Part of the trick I'd played on myself to keep from getting overwhelmed was to convince myself, this ain't no big deal, this happens all the time. But that mental Novocaine is wearing off, and I'm shaking my head, laughing, wondering how the hell I got here. I picture my chubby, insecure 7-year-old self. I wish I could embrace him and reassure him that everything is going to work out. I'd tell that music-obsessed miscreant from a broken home to just hang tough. There'll be plenty of challenges to come, but one day you'll blast off in a rocket ship built for one. You'll share adventures, sessions, meals, and laughs with your heroes, including Paul McCartney, Elton John, Carole King, and Dan Fogelberg. But more important than rubbing shoulders with them, your front row seat will provide you with a rare view of their creative processes that will inspire you on your own musical mission. Dark nights of the soul will push you to your limits, but they'll be the necessary fire that will forge you, helping you tune in to your deepest purpose. You'll perform to audiences around the world, have chart-topping albums, PBS specials, and your music will be streamed by millions of fans around the globe.